Cool.
Okay, perfect. We are
Looks
up.
good.
Yeah, it looks really good. All right, Pat King.
Yes, Queenie, my friend, how are you?
Yeah, I am wonderful. Thank you for joining me. I'm so excited to have this face to face with you. So thank you so
Yes,
much.
me as well.
This is a very interesting time that we're getting together. And the obvious is a handsome white guy and a beautiful sister over here.
That's right. That's right. Get that
In the
right.
middle, in the middle of all the chaos, we are coming together to just chat, to just talk.
Yeah,
So I thank you for that.
I really appreciate it, and I get it, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak with you. And I couldn't think of better timing, or for us to actually get together and do this. So yeah, I'm grateful that you asked me. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I of course I look at a lot of the things that you share, and you have a wonderful, wonderful, opinions, and I love your page. It's very inspiring. It's educational. As I said to you before, I don't always agree with everything that you say, but
Right.
I respect what you say
Yeah.
because you're so passionate, and I know and I truly believe it comes from a very good place.
Yeah.
So I really am honored to have you here. So we can just have a chat. I know you're doing a lot of things out there, and we live in the same state,
I know.
not too far from each
Not far
other.
away. Not far away at all.
Not far away. And you've been on a huge journey, and that's why we're here today, to kind of talk
Yep.
about that journey and to show the world that I do believe that we're more alike than different.
Yeah.
And just to talk about it, this journey that you've been on for I don't know how long, but you've definitely been
A few
on
years.
for some time.
Yeah. Well, it's been a lifelong journey, but the last few have really been pivotal years of my life. So
Yeah. So tell me about that. Tell me, like your journey that you've been on these last couple of years. I know you've talked openly about alcoholism. You've talked openly about your health, your mental health, well-being, and all these different things that you're so passionate about. Those that are viewing don't know you.
Right.
Not on my side. They're like, "Who is this Pat King guy?"
Right.
But I would love for them to be introduced to you by way of this
Sure.
conversation. So just tell us a little bit about that journey that you've been on.
Okay. So yeah, I'll just kind of work with the last few years. So about 3 years ago, actually on the 17th, it'll be 3 years that I quit drinking in a couple days. So, up until that time, I had a roller coaster of a life. It was, a lot of good and a lot of bad. I struggled with alcoholism my whole life. I realized that when I was probably as early as 20 years old. I got sentenced to go to AA meetings because I got arrested for marijuana. And I didn't understand what the hell marijuana had to do with AA, but but it soon made sense to me. The funny thing is like I in retrospect, I identified right away at that young age and I knew that I had a problem all the way back then, And so, I had a really successful career in my my work life. I had businesses and, I've done a lot of things in my life, so I didn't really suffer a lot of the consequences that, people suffer when they have addiction or alcoholism, until later in life that those consequences started to catch up with me. So the last few years, when I was approaching 40, I just turned 44 this year. So when I was approaching 40, when I was approaching 40, I knew it was time to change something in my life. I'd been struggling really bad a few years leading up to that. And, I went through some back surgeries, so I had a lot of things going on, and that took me, the end of that part of my life was, I'd say, having the back surgery. The last surgery I had was it was really hard for me because I was in health and fitness my whole life.
Yeah.
And I was into working out, living a healthy lifestyle. Not the drinking, obviously, but that's a whole nother story. You know, so being taken out of my element and being put in a position where I was like, I couldn't move, I was, ended up having to have surgery and recovering from that. So, I kind of lost my identity a little bit, and, I struggled with my identity most of my life, and like not knowing who I was, and always seeking things. And I've always been somebody who was seeking something, my entire life. And even though it took me, 40 years to get it together, I was trying, and I was doing a lot of things like going to, seminars like Tony Robbins and warrior boot camps. And I spent months at a time at Buddhist temples, and I did a lot of cool things trying to heal myself over the years. And, so just nothing ever really worked for me. And so one of the things that I tell people is that, it didn't matter what I did, because when I came home, and after the hoopla, the energy of that event, whatever I was doing, wore off, there I was. It was just me and myself again. It was the same guy. That was the problem. The person in the mirror was the difficult. It was my challenge was I didn't like the guy I saw in the mirror. I didn't like who I was. And, most of the people that knew me, I had a successful career. I had businesses on the side. Material possessions, all of them, whatever I ever wanted, everything I ever wanted, was the things that I thought I wanted. And, at the end of the day, like none of that stuff made me happy, So leading up to a few years ago when I got sober was, I left my job. It was right after my back surgery. And, I didn't know how to cope anymore. I was taking painkillers, I was drinking, and it was just, it was a really difficult time for me because, I couldn't exercise. I couldn't do any of the things that I thought, the things that I was hanging on to that still kept me somewhat sane, and still kept my life somewhat on track was health and fitness, and, so I kind of got derailed there, and I went into a really dark place, and I ended up moving to, in the midst of that, me finding that bottom was, a job opportunity to move to New York City. And I dreamed to move to New York City and live in Manhattan and have a beautiful place. And like, that was my dream to move back there and go there. And, so I had that opportunity, and, I went there, with this amazing opportunity. And, it didn't take me but a couple months. I mean, I immediately knew after getting there, almost immediately, within days, that this is not going to make me happy either, So all of my life, I've been chasing these things, chasing my career, chasing titles, material things, money, like all these things I just kept chasing, try to find fulfillment outside of myself. And, I got to New York City, and, it was the dream. I mean, I had a penthouse in Long Island City, 42nd floor, the view of the Manhattan skyline. I could see the World Trade Center and the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
Both, that was my view, that skyline. And, I thought I had made it, I'm like, oh, I made it. Look at me. But, I didn't, and all that, I had to reach that to realize, like, there was nothing left for me to chase anymore. There's nothing else outside of myself that I thought was going to make me happy, because having gotten there and reached that, that success of the career, the money, the apartment, whatever, I thought that was, what I wanted. And, like I said, I quickly realized that wasn't going to make me happy either. And it went downhill really fast after that. I lost the opportunity. I went there real quick. In a couple months, I was drinking every day. I was hopeless, and I just couldn't pull it together. And a lot of people don't know this about me, but during that time, I ended up homeless. And it's not something I share a lot. I've shared it before, but I ended up homeless. And I mean, how do you drink yourself to the street? Like, it just doesn't. And people were like, well, that's like what heroin addicts do, and crack addicts and this and that. I'm like, no. I'm like, I didn't need that. Like alcohol did the same thing to me,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And, so, fast forward a little bit, I ended up getting sober. Well, I ended up coming back to DC area, and I came back to DC, and, I just woke up one day after just trying to find a place to live and being on the street and not knowing what was next, not wanting to live, not being able to kill myself, not being able to do any, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't live anymore. I just didn't know how.
Right.
I woke up one day and, the obsession to drink was removed from me one day.
Wow.
And, I don't know what it was. I mean, I know it wasn't me, and I know there's a higher power involved, obviously. So I went through a long road. The first year of getting sober was just, it was all about staying sober. It was all about not drinking every day, just not drink, just don't drink, just don't drink, just don't drink every single day. I didn't go back to work. I didn't do anything. The first year, I just focused 100% on staying sober. 365 days, don't pick up a drink, just don't pick up a drink. And, and the obsession was removed from me. So, and because I couldn't do it on my own, clearly I couldn't do it on my own, because I was in and out of detox probably, a dozen times before that, trying to stop on my own because I wanted to, and I just couldn't. So that first year, I really just focused on my sobriety, staying sober. I went through the 12 steps that you go through in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm a big advocate for that, for people that are trying to get sober. It's not for everybody, and it's not always necessarily a long-term fit for some people either. But it's a great place to start. And if you can't, if you're struggling with anything, that's a good place to go. So the first year was just about staying sober, and then the second year, after I got some sobriety, I worked the 12 steps, and, I really started focusing, on my spirituality, getting my mind right. So the second year, it all comes in like a theme for me for some reason. The second year was all about my spirituality, just getting closer to my higher power, and seeking those things that I used to seek, that the wisdom, the higher consciousness, like all these things that I was always into, like philosophy, like all this stuff that I was into since I was a kid. And all that stuff started coming back to me when I could clear my head. And, then I started, I went traveling, I traveled quite a bit, and I traveled all over the U.S. and shared my story.
You did travel a lot.
I did. I was traveling. You saw me. I was everywhere.
I said, you're wandering.
I was just wandering. I literally was backpacking and hitchhiking, and just, people were like, they couldn't understand why I would do that. I'm like, I just feel the calling. I feel like I need to. And so every place I went, I had a good connection with a group of people online through recovery and some spiritual programs. They set me up with some keynote speaking gigs and things like that. And I got to go all over to all these different cities all over the United States and share my story. And, in the hopes that I could, make an impact on somebody's life. And, it was amazing. I spoke to thousands and thousands of people, and it was just incredible. So after that, I came back here about a year. And then the third year, I came back, and the second year was all about, my spirituality and getting my mind right. And so when I came back here, it took me till the third year to get back into health and fitness, so I literally had to take a break from health and fitness. I had to take a break from the physical aspect of it, because that was all ego driven most of my whole life, because I was a competitive bodybuilder. I was into judo, jiu-jitsu. I was competitive in that. I was very competitive and very ego-driven from a physical standpoint. So people kind of laugh when I tell them this sometimes. It's like, I stopped going to the gym. I literally didn't want to work out. I didn't want to lift weights and go to the gym because I was afraid that my ego would take back over again. I'd done so much work on my mind, and I knew that smashing my ego was a lot of work, and so I was literally afraid to go back and start lifting weights and start feeling that physical pump, that, the endorphins, the rush you get when you work out. Like, I was afraid to feel that because I didn't want that old person coming back. I didn't want to ever go back to that person I was. So the third year was about, okay, now I'm good. Like I got my mind right. It's always work. I didn't just arrive. Like there's still work every single day, relentless every day. And, so the third year was like, okay, now I get to get my physical being back, so now I can get my mind and my body back together. So the last year I really just focused on, you've probably seen my before and after pictures and stuff. I lost 40 some pounds and, I just focused on it. I made a decision, I focused and I did it. I went for it. And, so I got my physical being back and, so it was important to me. And it just reinforces like how important like the physical and the mental is, when people talk about the mind body connection, so important. I was at peace, I felt good. Like I was happy every day, but then when I got started getting my physical body back and I started feeling good physically, and I started looking better. I could look at myself in the mirror. Like I started feeling better. It's like, wow, how powerful is that to have those both working in unison together and really just, it just took me to a whole nother level of, consciousness. And, so yeah, that was my third year, and so every year has been kind of a theme. And, here I am going on my fourth year. And, I think the fourth year has a bit of a theme coming. It's already working too. Oh yeah. I mean, I know you were probably wondering what this year is.
Well, because this is 2020 and we're all struggling to get through it.
Yes.
But if yours is moving with a positive theme, I would love for you to share it.
So this year has been about, this fourth year is kind of about, rebuilding, reconnecting with people, rebuilding relationships, focusing on establishing some roots, reestablishing roots, and, just really focusing on building relationships and seeing what's next for me because, I know what my purpose is. I don't know exactly how I'm supposed to live that purpose necessarily, for sure. I think we're always learning.
Yeah.
I know my purpose is to help people in some way, some shape, like some way, somehow. Like I don't know what that looks like, and I'm pretty sure it has something to do with me sharing my experience, overcoming some of the things that I had to overcome. I beat a lot of health issues too that we hadn't talked about. So I overcame some health things that they didn't think I could. So this year is really just about me trying to figure out what's next for me. How do I continue on my journey of helping people, and what does that look like? So this year I'm kind of figuring that out, so that's part of me finishing my book and part of me launching my podcast. Those are tools that I want to use to reach people, and show people that anything is possible because, I was a hopeless drunk that didn't want to live, and, today I can truly say that I'm happy every single day. Like I'm content. I'm happy. I'm at peace every day of my life. Like I want to show people that that's possible, because so many people struggle with whether it's a mental struggle or it's an addiction or relationships or whatever it is. Like I've been through it all. Like I get it. But you can get past that and you can do whatever you want. And that was part of me throwing a backpack on my back with $100 in my pocket and decide to go across the country, and God provided for me the whole way. Like I didn't want for anything. I didn't need for anything. I found places to stay. I mean, I camped a lot, but I had places to stay. People put me up in cities that I was speaking at. I just trusted the process, and things just worked. So, it's very rewarding. I feel like I dedicate my life to every day just being a better person than I was yesterday and giving back, whatever that looks like. Nothing's about money anymore. Nothing's about a career. I have a job. I work a regular job so that I can do what I love to do on the side. Like my work is so that I can pay my bills, so that I can do stuff like this and reach out and write books and write articles and help people and go and speak. Because I don't I'm not looking to make a living off of that. That's just, I've been given a second chance of life, and I feel like I have to give that back. And I feel like that I owe the world that, you know, plus that's how my mom raised me. Like, that's what she did. Like, that's how she was, you know. She was giving and serving others until she was on her deathbed, you know, literally. And, you know, so that's kind of this 4th year is just about, you know, figuring out that process. What does that look like? You know, and I've built some amazing relationships this year. And yeah, I'm so grateful for everything I have, and just being alive most days, just waking up and, you know, being alive and wanting to jump out of bed and like, let's go. All right, what's next? What can I do? What can I do better today? Improve a little bit better each day. You know, and that's what most of my social media is about. Just, you know, spreading, hustling hope. That's what I tell people. I like to hustle hope.
I love that.
Hustle hope. That's what I want to do the rest of my life. I want to hustle hope, share my story, and show people that anything's possible. Literally, anything is possible, you know. And if you put your mind to it and you make a decision and just trust, you know, you got to trust in a higher power. And, you know, so yeah, so I guess that's what this year's theme is. And with everything going on, it kind of threw me for a loop the last couple of months.
Of course.
And yeah, so we can talk a little bit about that, but it's thrown me off a little bit. But it hasn't, I'm not going to lie. It's been, even for me, the last couple of months have been really challenging.
Of course.
Really challenging.
I think it's been challenging for all of us.
Yeah. So,
but you know, I want to pause for a second, because you shared your journey, parts of your journey with us. And it's amazing to hear how you have overcame so many obstacles, right? You lived your life trying to find that thing.
Yeah.
You said like 40 years you were doing this. And so those that are watching, I mean, sometimes it will take us that long to figure it out.
Right.
But as long as we just keep putting one foot before the other, we can find it, you know. And I can relate so much to you, which is why I said I believe that many of us are more alike than different.
Yep.
You know, I've never been an alcoholic. However, I felt the effects of alcoholism. I dated an alcoholic. And I've never had to go to Alcoholics Anonymous, but I did go to Al-Anon to seek help to understand how I can better navigate the world of alcoholism, because my loved one was an alcoholic. Yep. So we are so much more alike than different. And at the end of the day, you and I in particularly, and many other people, we're about servitude. We want to serve and leave this place better than we found it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just beautiful. So I will ask you your thoughts on us being more alike than different, as it relates to just life.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing, you know. You know, that's a great question. Like, what is? That's the thing about it is that we're so much more alike than we are different, and in the ways that we are different, like those things matter.
Right.
You know what I mean? Those things really matter. So. You don't have to answer. It's like a rhetorical question, but you know, what do those things that make us different even really matter? Because, you know, thinking about that question is, you know, I learned a long time ago that if I wanted to heal and I wanted to get better myself, or in a relationship, or as a community, I can't not focus on the differences. If I focus on the differences, you know, that's going to take me down a road that's just destructive.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a hard question to answer, Queenie, because I see you and I see so many similarities. I see what's different about us: our skin color, you know, our political views, I don't.
And it's only some of the political views. I don't think we're totally that different on a lot of our political
views.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but my point is like, that's like, those things don't matter. They really don't. And look, I can sit here and say that, I don't know, it sounds kind of you know, something somebody would say, like, yeah, those things don't matter to me, but they don't.
Yeah.
I don't look at people like that.
Yeah.
You know, they don't matter to me.
Yeah.
And I don't need to parade around and preach about things I do and friends I have and, you know, what I do that makes me this person. I don't do that. And because these things don't matter.
Right.
Like we're one and the same. Like I just,
and
there's so many things that.
I hate to interrupt you, but our differences make us who we are.
Right.
Similarities make us who we are. And all because we have differences doesn't mean that we aren't still relatable. It doesn't mean that we aren't still human. It doesn't mean that we can't still be united. It doesn't mean that we can't have dinner at the same table, or that we don't play the same sports together, or, you know what I mean? So yeah, we may have some differences, but at the end of the day, our hearts are in the right place, right? I want to be on the side of right, and whatever right looks like, it's not always going to be the same for everybody, but I'm not here to cause you any pain, any problems. I'm not here to bring danger upon you, any of those things. We are relatable in so many areas, you know, that, and I think if more people embraced the differences and the similarities, then we could get along. Because when groups do embrace that, you see them flourish. You see this conversation's able to be had, right? We're able to, and that's because we have a level of respect for each other's differences. We honor our similarities, and we can come together. And those that's watching us, I hope they feel the same way and not feel, you know, some other negative energy between the two of us, you know. So that's what I mean when I say
yeah. And with, like, the funny thing is like the political things, I mean, you could probably look back on my Facebook and like never see a political post ever for, you know, since 2007. Maybe, I don't know, like I don't remember, like I up until the last 2 months, and it's still not, but I'm still not on one side. Like it's not, you know, I think some of the things that are going on push me a direction sometimes because I feel strongly about certain things. But I also feel really strongly about other things on the other side. And it just doesn't, so that's why I've never engaged in politics. I honestly, just to be frank, like I don't know enough about politics to get too involved or say too much. And frankly, I don't want to. I need to know enough to be aware, you know, of what's going on. But my mantra has just always been freedom. Like, let people be who they want to be. And like, it doesn't matter. Like, why do we always have to convince each other of our opinions and our beliefs? Like, I hold my own belief system. And that's one of the major things I talk about in my book is my belief systems, and like how I had to squash everything. I got rid of everything. I threw it all out, you know, and I rebuilt my own belief system based on things that mattered to me. You know, and every single individual, if you're true to yourself and you honor yourself, you cannot tell me that you agree 100% with this side or this side.
Or the other side. That's
There's
where's your moral barometer lie?
It's impossible. So I don't understand. I just cannot. I've tried to understand why people choose a side and go full bore on that side. And by any means necessary, try to convince the other side of why they do it. Like that just doesn't make any sense to me. That seems like a colossal waste of time and energy. You know, it makes no sense to me.
Pat, what's your zodiac sign?
I'm a Pisces.
Oh, okay. See, I'm Sagittarius, but but I think that way as well. You know, I utilize my moral barometer, and I check that to make sure that it's not influenced by way of something over here or some person or the other. I check with what really feels right to me. And I'm that way when it comes to spirituality. I'm that way when it comes to food I eat. I'm that way when it comes to the clothes I wear. You know what I mean? And I wasn't always that way. I'm that way with the political party. It's easier for me to do what feels right to me, because I have to look at self in the mirror tomorrow and I'm not looking at those other people that's been
Right.
over here influencing me. I'm looking at myself. I'm an adult now, right?
Yeah.
So, and I have to have that freedom to think and to rationalize what makes sense to me, and how these things that I'm deciding on, how they impact me and how they impact my children and even my community at large, right?
Right.
Those things are important to me. And then it doesn't matter what we're talking about. It's just,
Yeah.
they just are.
Yep.
You know, they just are. So I agree with you there again. It's everyone has
You know, there's a word for us, right?
What is
You know
that?
what it is?
What is
Starts
it?
with an O.
Starts with an O. Oh God. Go
I
ahead.
think it's don't get me wrong, I could be wrong, but
Someone will
no,
correct us.
I mean, I know what it means, but
Yeah.
it's called an omnist.
Oh, an
So,
okay.
an omnist. It's like,
Yeah.
it's relatable to religion,
Yes.
but it's the same in politics.
Yeah.
It's like you find truths in different things.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just struggle with looking at all these highly intelligent people that choose the sides and knowing that they don't agree with all that.
Yeah.
They will fight to the death to prove their side right. And
Yeah.
like, I just don't at the cost of human lives and,
Yes.
you know, and hurting people. It just doesn't,
Yeah.
it'll never make sense to me.
I agree with you. And I know you and I, we've talked, we've gone back and forth, and just, you know, I don't want to harp on it, but I do want to make sure that I address it because I'm sure viewers are going to be like, But I know you and I, we've talked about from the Black Lives Matter movement to the police matter movement, the Blue Lives Matter movement, and understanding that there is, for me, there's a right in it all, because if all life matters, then we should be upset about everything, right?
Absolutely.
And so I know we've gone back and forth about that, but of course it's all been respectful.
Absolutely.
You know, I can't deny that Blue Lives Matter, but
Right.
I don't want anyone to deny that Black Lives Matter, and I definitely don't want you to deny that we all matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I know we've talked about that, and I'm sure people are watching, and of course, again,
well, I mean, the beautiful thing is, Queenie, that every interaction I've ever had with you has been nothing but out of love from both of us.
Yeah, it has been.
I love you. Like, it's not like
it's been a place.
There's nothing, for real. You know, and I can get, you know, there's a little bit of me that, like, old me that comes out, and I get a little fired up about things that I'm passionate about. And just like you, or just like anybody else that is standing up for Black Lives Matter, like I understand, I get it. And because I get the other side, like I'm passionate about what I'm passionate about. And, you know, my response is, it's hard for me to give a stance on anything one way or the other. Like, yes, Black Lives Matter. Yes, every life matters. Yes, all, like, I mean, the struggle for me of like just supporting one thing or agenda, or is just because, like, I've lived my life. Everyone matters to me. Like my entire life, not just since I've got my act together in the last few years, but my whole life. Like, you can talk to anybody that knows me. Like I have friends from every background and like different religions and different countries and different races. Like I've married different races, and like, so I don't, like, it doesn't, it's just, so it's hard for me to just go and be like, well, come on, like, I get it, yes, but
it's so different, Pat, when we come from a place of openness, that we do have a diverse group of friends, diverse life. I mean, we've had these amazing experiences with all walks of life. It's so different when we move and we're open that way. It's hard for us to see it in a very dogmatic way, right? And I think it's exposure. I think that's one of the reasons why I encourage we all should get together, one with another, and not be afraid of these things that, you know, maybe the stereotypes, or maybe I mean, come on, many of us as kids were told all kind of bull crap, right? We were told all kind of things, and we were told those things from the adults' fear, you know what I mean? And maybe media was saying something, or, you know, we were reading something, or history was telling us these horrific stories. And so it made it almost hard for us to form our own opinion, because we would even walk close to another person or walk close to a different experience, or decide to change religious views or political views because we were given these things. And so you and I, and many of those that are watching, which some of them are hitting me up about you, Pat, but he's taken. but you know, like, we've had the opportunities, and not all experiences were great, but at least taken the good from many experiences, right? Yeah. And that's the difference. So some of the people that are on your page and some that are on mine, they haven't been afforded the same opportunity.
Right.
And that's why I am thankful, and I love your spirit. I love your commentation. I love what you talk about. And I love your passion. I mean, I look at it and I'm like, I mean, I get it. Yeah. And I'll just leave you like a real cool response. Yeah. I know. I ain't arguing about it. Like, I understand, man, but listen.
Yeah. But to your point, like what you're talking about is like the domestication of human beings. Like, when we're domesticated, you know, we're like dogs. Like, you domesticate a dog a certain way, it acts a certain way if you train it right, you know?
Yes. And it's a good dog.
The same thing happens to us as human beings. There's a domestication of human beings. Yeah. And when we're domesticated, whatever we learn in our culture, in our society, in our home life, in our communities, like all those things that the adults tell us, and then we become an adult and we start repeating all the same stuff. So I understand like why people feel the way they do, and I get it. Like, not everyone has gone through what I've gone through and had the ability to like erase my beliefs and like forget everything. Like, you know, it took a lot of work.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And it's still work.
Yeah.
But so I get it. I have compassion for everybody, and I understand that we only know what we know. We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And I like to encourage people to seek their own truths. Like, look for your own truths. Think for yourself. Yeah. Just because, you know, these people that you've trusted your whole life say one thing, that doesn't make it true. Right. Like, what's true to you? Do some research. Find out what really resonates in your soul. What resonates in your heart. What resonates with you as a human being. And who is the person that you want to be? Who is the person that you want to be? And does that person look, say, act, and do all those things that you're saying, and doing? Or would that person that you want to be a little different? And if that's the case, then be that person. Yeah. Do those things. Adopt your own beliefs, and don't live in fear that your party's going to abandon you, or this person's going to, or these people are going to. You know, I've coached people over the years, and I've told people to, like in fitness, even all the way back to personal training, and told people they got to get away from their family members because they're just not helping. They're not helping. Right. Like, they're only hurting you. Right. They're feeding you crap. What's the difference?
Isn't that so sad?
You know, society's feeding you crap. These people that you trust are feeding you crap. Yeah. Look at what you're eating. Yeah. Does it taste good? Does it look right? Does it smell right? Should you eat that? I mean, it's food, or it's, you know, everything else in society that we're domesticated with. You can look at it just like food. Does this taste good? Does it look good? Does it smell good? I probably shouldn't eat that. Let me see what else is available on the menu. Yeah. I mean,
we do have choices. We can be different. That's it. We can be
whoever we want. And that's my we can be whoever we want.
Yes. Okay, so listen, I'm not gonna harp on this because I want to talk about your book. I know you have a book that you're working on, and I would love to hear a little bit about that.
So the book, it's, I just laugh because I'm like constantly in this process of rewriting things. Okay. It's so hard when it pertains directly to your life and how you live on a daily basis and work through things. And then things like this happen and it changes your perspective. Yeah. So, you know, I'm infamous for like putting stuff on Facebook and then a couple of days later deleting it. And like, hey, what happened to that post? I'm like, I don't feel that way anymore. Yeah. What do you mean? I'm like, look, I'm not the same person I was 5 minutes ago, let alone 2 days ago. Mm-hmm. You know, give me a break. I'm human. Like, and I'm open mind. So and I have an open heart. So my perspective changes on things. And when I get more information, my opinions change,
Yeah.
you know, my perspective changes. So same things kind of happened with my book. So it was supposed to be end of summer. So it's probably end of the year now. I'm hoping to be done by Christmas.
Okay.
And if it's not ready, I might just push it through anyway to just get it out for Christmas. I know it's halfway there now. I just think, what is it? June. Oh, okay. June. Come on. I got to go.
Yeah.
So my book it's called Beyond Survivorship. And the phrase Beyond Survivorship is something I came up with, over the course, actually something I came up with about 10 years ago for a seminar company that I wanted to run, that I wanted to start.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole idea is to learn about all these things that we're talking about, and to get different perspectives, to learn how to live different. And because we're all just kind of surviving, like everyone is walking around just hanging on, just surviving. And so it's my life story, but it's also integrated in with my life story are the principles and ideology and actions of things that I learned to do that have helped transform my life.
Okay.
So I put a lot of that into play. So I talk a lot about my life, my story kind of jumps around a little bit with my story, but I can tell you the things that, so they're like the topics in the book, in the chapters are, about gratitude, acceptance, living in acceptance, expectations. I'd love to talk more about expectations, because learning how to manage my expectations literally changed my life. Expectations, awareness, being aware and recognizing what resistance is and how to combat resistance. Resistance is in everything. See, what else am I missing? Decisiveness, choosing your purpose, and dropping your belief system. Like I talked about, dropping your entire belief system and rebuilding your belief system. And then the one that should have been in the beginning is choosing your bottom. I talked about my bottom.
What now? Your bottom.
Choosing your bottom. Because, and not everyone, it doesn't have to be an alcoholic bottom. It doesn't have to be, maybe it's a political bottom. Maybe you should read a book that's called Don't Burn This Book. I don't know, suggestion. But, but so, those are the things that I've worked on in my life in the last, 3 or 4 years that have really helped transform my life. And then I get into some of the daily habits and daily practices of things that are work every single day that I put in, like meditation, reading, cold showers, nourishing my body properly, proper nutrition. I get into the health and fitness aspect of it because that's my background. Right. And it completely relates to how your mind works. You got to you got to eat for your mind. Food controls how you feel in your not just your physical body, but your mental being as well. So if you want it all to work together, then, you need to take a look at what you're eating. Is that food good for your brain? I talk about a lot of love and compassion, a lot about love and compassion, because that is something that's just and it's not just love and compassion is everywhere. Like if you're looking at how to relate to somebody, how to look at a situation, like things that are happening right now and things that are being done. And it's hard to look at people with compassion and love when they're doing terrible things. Right. But just literally learning to look at people and know that they don't know. We're talking about being domesticated and things, like that. Like people don't know, what they're doing sometimes. And so I get into a little bit of that. But yeah, so that's those are the general things that I talk about in my book. And, this the last couple of months kind of put another little spin on the situation. Maybe because it did change my perspective. What's that? Like a subtopic, right? Yeah. Well, I think I might want to address. Well, I don't want to give away too much, but I kind of had to go back and rewrite the beginning of what we're going through now. Yeah. So, and it's completely relatable to everything I talk about. Okay. So, so I'm finishing up the beginning again. Okay. I mean, it happens. I mean, that's how life is though, right? Sometimes you have to go and restart some things. You do. And that's okay. You know, things happen, when they're supposed to happen. If you're putting in the the work. You know, all I can keep doing is, you know, doing the next right thing every day, and, you know, things will, you know, there's always more will always be revealed, and your perspective will always change. You know, man, I just want to honor myself and my own personal truth. And I want people to come together, you know, and I want,
You and me both. We were given this world, right? We were given it.
We were.
You know, and
nobody owes me shit. Nobody owes me shit.
Right.
Nobody owes me anything.
So I think we're just trying to do our best with what we're given, and then the things that we weren't given, we're trying to create a best for ourselves. So I really appreciate, you know, again, you know, you sharing, you know, the story with me, because you are so inspiring to me. When I saw you traveling, I said traveling the nation. I'm like, man, I wish I could do that. You know, I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
So I lived vicariously through you, and I love your
you.
pictures. I love your posts were always so touching. You could tell you were going so deep on your journey. And I remember going into your inbox, and I'm like, you were like a wanderer. Where are you wandering to?
Right.
You are all over the place, but you're so inspiring. And I know a lot of times, you know, those of us that motivate and empower others, it comes from oftentimes a place of pain that we had and we've overcome, or we're still currently overcoming. And with that being said, you know, I guess, you know, you have, what is it? Is it, let me go back to my little notes here. I don't want to say it wrong.
Go ahead.
The Beyond Survivorship.
Yeah.
So is that, now tell me a little bit about Beyond Survivorship.
So that's kind of, well, that's the name of the book.
The name of the book,
Yeah. So, and that's
born out of what? Just
born out of what was, you know, kind of like I was saying earlier, was about us just, like my whole life, I was just surviving, you know, I was just hanging on. And no matter, it didn't matter how much money I made, how many things I bought, how many great friendships, how many relationships I had. I had the best relationships. I had the best friendships. I had the best car. I had the best job. I had the best everything, you know? But I was still just hanging on, like by a thread, just surviving. And so that's where that comes from. It's just like, we got to move beyond just surviving, you know, and we got to move beyond just surviving and live our best life.
Yeah. If
we're always just surviving, just doing enough to just get by, we can never fully experience life and all the joys and the peace that is possible. We can't.
Yeah,
if we're always just doing you know, if we're just struggling in everything, most people are just struggling in different areas, but some people struggle in every area and they don't know. Because look at me, really, look at me in my career.
Yeah.
Most people wouldn't have guessed that I went through what I went through in my life, because I seen this successful person, happy all the time. I was the life of the party, always having fun. Like, I was struggling. I was struggling bad. You know, and physically, mentally, emotionally, like I was struggling. And the more the years went on, the less I could hold on. I just couldn't hold on anymore. And I realized that I had to learn how to live differently. I had to learn how to live and function and cope in this world, because the world's not going to change for me. You know, I got to change. I have to change. In order for me to just not be surviving every single day, just getting by, I have to change. I have to become the person that I want to be. So that I'm not just surviving every day. We've got to move beyond that. And it's a transition. Like, it's a literal transition, I think. You know, I believe it is for a lot of people. It's a literal transition, like when you've had enough, you know, of just hanging on and just surviving. And you're willing to do whatever it takes to push through and become a different person so that you can start living your damn life. You know?
You said something about the surviving part, and I always promote us getting past surviving and into thriving, right? We need
same thing,
to thrive, right? My plants, they need the best environment to thrive in, or they're going to wilt and die. And
I struggle with plants. I already told you about that.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm telling you, it's tragic when you don't have the right environment
Right.
thrive in. And my passion is, just like you, is, helping others and pouring into others. And you may not know exactly what it is, but you know that it is that servitude to others. It is promoting a thriving environment for all those that come around me, if they are receptive to it. I don't force anything on anyone, but
no,
that's
neither.
the piece that I try to bring to relationships, right? And I don't always get it right, but we're still pushing towards it, because I believe that there's so much growth that can come from a thriving environment. So, Pat, we have several people that have kind of chimed in, and one of the guys said that love is key. I think you hit on that, and someone totally agrees with
Absolutely.
that. They talked about how you're promoting positive thoughts. That's the space that we're in. No matter what's going on and how chaotic this world is, this place right here between you and I is going to promote positive thought. And so someone's noticing that. And there's a question here, actually, from John. He says, Pat, have you always been this way? I think you might have missed the beginning of this. He says, Pat, have you always been this way, or was there a turning point for you, a specific turning point for you?
Yeah, there was a turning point for me. Is when I was approaching 40 years old, and maybe you missed the beginning, but it's when I was approaching 40, and I just couldn't live like I was living anymore, and I just had enough, and I didn't want to, I couldn't, I was suicidal. I was an alcoholic. I couldn't live. I didn't know how to live and function properly, and I couldn't die. Like I just, like, it was just, I'd had enough, so that was kind of the turning point for me. But that kind of brings me back to something I didn't really touch on, was choosing your bottom. When people talk about their bottoms and stuff, we can all choose our bottom, and our bottom can be different. So when people talk about hitting rock bottom and, things like that, like,
that low,
the thing about it is, like, you don't have to go get more. You don't have to go and do some dumb stuff until you become homeless. You don't have to, ruin your life to choose a bottom. Like, your bottom can be wherever you're at today. Like, where you're at today, you can make a choice and say, I'm sick and tired of living like this. I've had enough. I'm going to do something different. And tomorrow or today, you can just start making better choices, and you can start becoming the person you want to be. And, I read a lot of books, but one of the books that, if you want to become a different person, if you look at somebody, you can make up the character if you want, or you can look at somebody in real life and say, I'd like to be like that person. And you look at that person, and what are the types of things that person does? Those are the things you need to start doing. There's a great book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. That book, if you want to change your life, I'll tell you what, read that book, get the habit journal that comes with it, and literally start creating new habits for yourself. Don't go crazy all at once. Just start with a few. I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. I try to
manage your expectations, right?
Manage your expectations, which we didn't talk about. But yeah, just start changing the things you do on a daily basis, day in and day out. And you will feel a change. You'll see a change. You'll get momentum, and your life you'll be a different person before you know it. I don't even recognize, I still sometimes to this day don't even recognize myself, who I am anymore, because I'm so different from what I used to be. And I'm constantly learning and changing every day. Like I said, I'm not the same person I was 5 minutes ago. I'm constantly learning and changing, and I'm evolving as a human being. And I've embraced that process, and that's who I am today. I'm a learner. Like, I want to keep learning, and I want to share. I'm only learning so that I can share, and so that I can be better. The only reason I want to learn so much, everything I learn is about how to be a better human. I'm not learning that because I still want to be a better human, but I want to share things with other people. Like, I want to help people. So, and the only way I can do that is if I can continue to become a better person myself. So, answer to the question was like, yeah, there's a turning point. Choose your bottom. Choose wherever you're at, in whatever part of your life or your whole life, whatever. Like, just make a choice and be like, I'm done. You know what? Today, tomorrow morning, whenever, I'm making a decision, and you stick to it and just go. You're going to stumble, but you got to keep getting up. And sometimes you'll have to crawl. You won't be able to get back up on your feet. You just crawl.
I
Keep
love
going.
it. I love it. Pat, you energize me. I love it. I
Thank
love,
you.
it's great. I do try to pour into people, but it's so nice when someone pours back. So
Yeah.
I love.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I've had this discussion with some people.
Well,
sometimes I'm just like, oh,
sometimes your cup goes empty, and
my
around
cup's empty
you,
sometimes.
people are
Yeah.
steady drinking from you,
Recharge.
and you're like,
That's
yeah,
why I get to the mountains like every weekend to
yes,
hike.
I know,
I gotta go recharge. That's
yes,
my
yes.
refill station.
Me too. I'm an empath, and I can feel the energy when I go out there, and I can reset. And yes, I agree.
Yep. Yep.
All right, so I have another question here.
Shoot, go for it.
It's from Darina. She asked, "Do you find yourself still falling into the habit of chasing something elusive?"
That's a great question.
That's an awesome question.
That is a very introspective question. Could you read it again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. Do you find yourself still falling into the habit of chasing something elusive?
Yes. So I can't think of anything specific off the top of my head, but absolutely. Here's the thing about habits. We learn new habits, but our old habits are still there.
Yeah.
They're just waiting, you know. They're like outside in the parking lot doing push-ups, waiting for you to come out so they can take you down, you know. And like sometimes those old habits do creep back in, but the key is self-awareness. You gotta work on your awareness. You gotta, when you're aware of things, like I have bad thoughts and things like that come in my mind, and like I'm not perfect. It requires a lot of work to maintain where I've gotten. But the key is to being aware of these things when they happen, or when these thoughts come in your mind, or you catch yourself doing something you shouldn't do a couple of days in a row, or you're slipping on something that's important to you. The key is recognizing it and automatically turning and going the other way.
Yeah.
You know, so awareness, that just brings me into another topic, a book. It's called Awareness by Anthony DeMello.
Okay.
An older book, amazing book. In order to change anything in your life, to make permanent change, you got to become self-aware. And I mean, like, I always thought I was self-aware, but I wasn't. Okay. It requires work. It's a daily thing. It requires work. You got to work those muscles, those mental muscles, and just work on your awareness so that you can learn to recognize those things and immediately don't hesitate. You immediately change directions on something if it's not right.
Yeah. Yeah. So she said that she 100% agree with you.
Thank you. Good company then.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That self-awareness is key. Like, you have to bring those things under subjection and be aware that they're there.
Right.
And honestly, what they do to you, like, those are the ugly parts that we may not necessarily like. So we have to, one, own that they're there, and then, as you said, be aware of them, and then bring them under subjection. Because you said something funny, like they're out in the parking lot doing push-ups, just waiting to take you.
All those bad habits, those bad things, your bad character defects that you're trying to overcome, they're all waiting for you outside, like working out, getting pumped, getting ready for you to come out, and waiting for you to be weak so they can take you down.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's important. One of the things I say a lot is that we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what we don't know. So, and if we're not aware of something, we can't change it.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's all about awareness, generating awareness.
That's the growth part, though. Right? That's the growth.
That's right.
The growth part.
With growth.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
All right. So listen, we have been on. We have almost come to the end of our time. This journey has been real.
That's sad.
I know there's so much we could talk about.
Well, we'll have to do it again for sure.
We have to, especially I don't want to put it on when you launch the book, because I know life can happen.
Yeah.
So, and that's December at the latest. So we will just, I don't know. I know others would love to have you back. You have been so inspirational and inspiring today, and I love that. And I'm trying my best to bring more of that to the Bar Talks platform.
Yeah.
Not that we've been negative, but we do have discussions that are very uncomfortable for some.
Right.
And that's intentional, because I just believe that there's power through conversation.
We have to have those difficult conversations. We have to.
We do, yeah.
We have to.
Exactly. And so since I believe there's power through conversation, there's power in this as well.
Yeah.
So I invite you back anytime you got something going on or not, just want to come and chat and join us.
Sure.
I invite you back.
I'd love to. Anytime.
Can you please tell the viewers before we wrap this up where they can find you, where they can follow your journey, where they can find out about the book?
Yeah.
Perfect.
So I'm my Instagram and Facebook are both at Real Pat King. My website is patking.com. It's not necessarily updated, but it will be. If you follow me on social media, everything is coming. Everything will be pushed out through social media as it starts coming. I'm going to start giving some sneak peeks at the book, like little pieces of chapters. Probably starting in July. I'm going to start releasing, and I don't want to give away too much, but there's going to be some podcasts that are coming along that are part of the book. So there's going to be discussions on chapters. In between chapters, there's going to be a podcast discussion on the chapter.
I love that.
So it's a unique way I'm doing my book. It's mainly for the audio version, but it's going to be published in podcast format as well. So yeah, as soon as I get that going. And my podcast will be gone hopefully soon. And so you'll have to come on a guest on my podcast.
I would love to.
I've done a bunch of business. I did some business podcasts and some other things and it's like, now I've just been waiting to do this one. Like those were just practice getting me ready for this, for my personal podcast. So I'm excited to do that. And you inspired me too. So I'm inspired to get my act together and get my new podcast launched, because it really doesn't take that much to do it.
It doesn't.
There's no excuse, especially because I've done like 20 podcasts. I know I've produced like 20 podcasts. I know how to do it. So I don't have an excuse. But y'all can yell at me if you want and say, where's your podcast? Hold me accountable.
Like, let me drive with you to work. Let me let you just talk in my car. Yes, Pat, listen, you have so much to share. And not to drain you, but I love listening. So and I know that my viewers, I'm sure that they're all going up. First of all, I'm just going to tell you the truth, and I know your lady's going to see this. Because you're handsome, the ladies are like, who is that?
Well, thank you. That's I take that as a nice compliment. Thank you.
Absolutely. Trust me, it is a compliment. So you'll have some new followers soon. Awesome.
And anybody, feel free to reach out to me, message me. I answer I have a lot of people, not that many on Instagram. A lot of people message me on Facebook. I respond to every message. It might take me a little bit sometimes, but I respond. A lot of people reach out to me on Facebook, and I respond to everyone. So anytime, anything, just ask.
I definitely will. I look, someone's saying, where's your podcast? That darn question. We were trying to avoid that. It's coming. His podcast is coming.
Yes, it is. I promise. It's
follow
coming.
him on all of his social media. They're on Facebook saying, where is your podcast? So
it'll be out by July.
There you go. Look, that's like,
there you go. I'll tell you what, how about July 1st?
Look at that. That's right.
July 1st.
Right.
It'll be out by July 1st. Promise. If I tell you that I'm going to do it, because that's all I have.
When you drop it, send me the link.
I will, for sure.
I will put it on Bar Talk so people can see it. I'll put it on my personal page.
Awesome.
See it. This will be one of those interviews, this conversation that people will not forget. And so when they see that name come up, they're going to know it's like, oh, that's that guy.
Well, and I love having these conversations, and a lot of people aren't willing to just put everything aside and just have a conversation. Like it's like, let's just talk, and I get it. Some people are a little fired up sometimes and they speak with emotion, and I get a little emotional sometimes too, not much like I used to, but I still do a little bit sometimes. And so I get it. It's okay. But let's just put the BS aside and let's talk. That's the only real change that's going to happen is through us changing ourselves.
Yes.
Ourselves first. We always have to change us before we can change the world. And then as we're changing ourselves, let's share with each other and have conversations to help each other grow.
Yeah.
Like, that's where real change is going to happen,
Yeah.
I have hope,
I got the hope too. I'm still.
I got hope. Everything's going to be okay. You know, I'm like, it's hard sometimes, you know, I get it. And, you know, even myself, I get a little negative sometimes in the last couple of months, but you know, it's going to be okay. Like, I think when the dust settles, you know, I feel like when the dust all settles on some of this stuff, that it's going to be closer to what we've seen in like 9/11, and people are going to start coming together. You know, if we could just, you know, if we could put the media in quarantine for like, you know, 6 months,
can
we'd be
we
golden.
ever? Now,
Forever,
that is yeah. Can we ever? They're the worst. Like, there's no accountability.
But, you know, I can
God.
slam the media. I can slam the media, and I have no problem doing it. But at the end of the day, we are responsible. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's our responsibility.
Yep.
It's my responsibility. It's your responsibility to act and do different.
Yes.
It's not the media's fault.
I agree. I do agree. I do agree, but they do get on my nerves sometimes. But yeah, no, I agree. You know, Pat, you know, it's, you know, something that you hit on, you know, even in this time, you know, sure, we're hoping after the dust clears, people can come together and after like 9/11, but you know what? In spite of what's going on, we're still finding a way to do this. I have some really dope ass friends, and they're not all melanated, right?
Yeah.
But they are dope, and they've been riding this out with me, and I've been riding whatever we're going through in the world at the time, you know, since we've been connected. I've been riding that with them, and so there's still some dope ass people out here.
Yeah, I know.
We're, in spite of what's going on, we're still making these connections. We're still bridging the gap. We're still crossing over the bridge to shake hands with one another, you know. So that's what this is about. And those viewing us, I mean, this is I hope more people come together, like you're saying.
Yeah.
In spite of what's going on, we decide to do this.
Yes, absolutely.
This is what we do. We can't go to the bar and have a drink.
Because people are mostly good, you know. It's one of the things I've learned, you know, in my travels and backpacking around the country and stuff. Is like people are mostly good.
Yeah, there's a lot of good people.
They didn't just start being bad all of a sudden. People were making bad choices, and they're reacting and thing with emotion, but they're inside in their hearts, they're still good. Mostly all good people. Yeah. You know, so let's work on it.
Yeah, let's work on it. Let's work on it. Let's work on it. So Pat, thank you again.
You're welcome, honey. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're gonna wrap this.
Yes, thank you all very much for tuning in, and please reach out anytime.
Yeah, I've had an awesome time with you. So I think that's it. It's a wrap. You know how to find me on Bar Talk. You know, you can reach me directly though. You know how to reach me directly. So everyone, continue to spread this message of inspiration and coming together and the journey. Like, we all have a story to tell. You look at us and may not know it, but we all have a story.
Sure do.
So continue to and inspire others. Thank you so much, Pat.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care, guys. Bye, everyone.